It happened again, didn't it? Aston Villa continue our tirade of being the most inconsistent team in England. We beat Celtic 4-2. It's fantastic. We're all buzzing. We go and lose to Wolves 2-0 in one of the worst performances I've seen this season. We then have the glorious debut of Marcus Rashford and Marcus Asensio in the FA Cup, beating Spurs 2-1 to get us through to the fifth round for the first time in 10 years. And we follow it up by drawing 1-0 in the Premier League to 10-man relegation favourites, Ipswich. I don't know what is going on with us this season. Our inconsistency is quite frankly outstanding, but we're going to be diving into that today, specifically the Ipswich game, and what on earth is causing us to be the most frustrating team that you've ever seen. But before we get into that, be sure to leave a like, subscribe for more Aston Villa content, and comment down below your thoughts on what on earth is going on, causing Villa to be fantastic one week and just god-awful the next. So to understand it, I've just chucked some of our recent results up on the screen, starting from December. We lose 3-0 to Chelsea, terrible result. Then we go and beat Brentford 3-1, beat Southampton 1-0, beat RB Leipzig away from home 3-2, and we're all on cloud 9. Then we play Nottingham Forest, we go 1-0 up, and then we're just incredibly sloppy and lose 2-1. Not fantastic, but it's after a Champions League game. We know how bad we are after Champions League games. We follow that up with a fantastic 2-1 win against Man City, where we just absolutely dominated them from start to finish of that game. And then we go and lose to Newcastle 3-0. A disappointing 2-2 draw to Brighton followed that. But it's alright, we jumped back on the train. 2-1 against Leicester, 2-1 against West Ham, 1-0 against Everton. A good 2-2 draw against Arsenal where we had to come from behind. Then we have that just awful performance at Monaco, lose 1-0. Draw with West Ham, a game that again we probably should be winning. And then we have, again, these last four results have just been goddamn awful, right? 4-2 against Celtic, fantastic, brilliant, love that. The Wolves game, we lost 2-0. A relegation team, again, not good in the slightest. We played so poorly. We bounced back 8 days later, fantastic. We had a little bit of rest. We used the rest. We beat Tottenham 2-1. A good performance, a great performance, to be fair. Could have beaten them 4-5-0. And then Ipswich, they're down to 10 men. Axel Tuanzebe gets sent off in the 40th minute. We played 50 minutes against a relegation team who had 10 men. And all we could do is muster up a measly draw, which leaves our chances of Europe dwindling in the stars. So what's the first thing that you point to? Well, as you can see on the screen, it will be the injuries. Now, this is going to add in signings that we've made in January to this list, so I'll have to filter those out. But in August, when the season roughly kicks off, right, August, September time, Matty Cash out. We know we came into this season without the likes of Tyrone Mings. Emi Buendia was just coming back from his injury as well. Then Leon Bailey gets injured, McGinn got injured, and Digne in September. You're thinking that's not too bad. October, things start to get a little bit shaky, right? Conser out for a little bit, Onana, Bailey again, Jacob Ramsey, who's sort of finally coming back now, Onana again. And then November is when you really think, right, injuries are starting to hit Villa a little bit hard here. Barkley, Rodgers, Cash, Ramsey, Pau Torres, Onana again, Maatsen, Conser again, Kamara, who's just coming back from injury, let's not forget. And then December, Ollie Watkins was out for a little bit, Tyrone Mings again with that knee injury, Leon Bailey again. January, Onana again, McGinn again, that's our captain, Tyrone Mings twice again. And now you look at this month, right, we've lost Matty Cash, he's been out for around 3-4 weeks now. Ross Barkley's been out for about a month. Courtney Hawes, I thought he was dead. Pau Torres though, out again. Concert now out. The injuries are adding up. Like, we are losing. I think I saw something where we've had to make an injury substitution in the first half of our last 5 home Premier League games. It's not good. But what's the knock-on effect of that, right? Let's have a look. One thing for me this season is the inconsistency that we've had along our back four. Last season, it was pretty settled. Digne, Pau, Carlos, Konsa played a majority of the games, or Konsa would move in, Carlos would drop out, and Matty Cash would come in. Now, let's take this lineup, for example. This was the Spurs game that we won 2-1. There is a back two, again, because Konsa had to come off. That's the first back two. Now, again, Konsa had to come off, right? So that's the second back two that we've used this season. Let's go across to here. That's the third back two that we've used this season. This is the fourth back two that we've used this season. Can you sort of see where I'm getting at? If you want to get the deep cut, we've used I know I've spelled his name wrong, but we've used that back two combination this season. I'm pretty sure we've used Bogard there with Konsa as well, or Carlos. One of them was in there, so that's the fifth, sixth back two combination. Again, we saw a new one this weekend. There you go. There is yet another back two combination that Aston Villa had to use, and it gets better because Kamara came off injured. So what's this? The seventh, eighth back two. Not having a settled centre-back partnership costs teams, and we've seen that this season, right? Because Aston Villa's defensive record, quite frankly, is woeful. We move out to the right. We've seen Garcia on the right recently. We've seen Konsa on the right. We've seen Cash on the right? Because we've got injuries. We've seen Bogard play out on the right back position. I'm pretty sure we've even seen that this season on the right hand side. We've seen Jaden Philogene play wing back as well. Over on the left hand side, we've seen Digne and Maatsen. To be fair, though, the only two that have been sort of rotating on that end. But again, there's rotation there. There's not a settled back line, and I don't think it's through fault of Emery not knowing his best back four, because obviously Martinez is a dead cert. I think it's just through injuries. That's where it's really, really impacted for me. It's just that inconsistency in the back line has been just obvious, right? Obvious. But let's go deeper than that, right? I'm not having unlocked all of the stats here because I don't need them all, to be honest with you. But we're going to be looking at Aston Villa stats, Footy Stats, great website. What's the first thing that stands out at you guys here? Our goals conceded has just poor this season. I mean, our average form as well, 1.52 points per game. It's just not good enough, right? It's just not good enough. But what stands out to me here, +6 goal difference at home, -9 goal difference away from home. We've only lost once at home at Villa Park this season, and I believe that was against Arsenal. Overall, 7 losses though, because we've lost 6 away. We're 4 wins, 2 draws, 6 losses away from home is not good enough. 23 goals conceded in just 12 away games. It's woeful, right? Only 1.17 points per game. Now, if we scroll down here, because there's another thing that I wanted to quickly look at here, and it's not the over-under goals. Both teams to score we don't need. It's this, right? Goal timing. So this is goals scored and goals conceded by 10 minutes. Now, the goals scored I'm not too worried about, apart from a couple of things that do worry me, and that is that just Villa seem to be, one, a team of two halves, and two, run out of steam a little bit, right? 3% of our goals come in between the 41st and 50th minute, right? We always struggle just before half time, and we always struggle coming out for a second half, and then that just 6% of our goals being scored late on. We struggle to score late goals. Only 2 of our 35 goals coming in the last 10 minutes of a game. And then what do you notice about the bit below it? 26%, over 1/4 of the goals that Aston Villa have conceded this season have come in the last 10 minutes of football. That is very worrying. Why on earth can an Emery team, a team that was so good at defending last season, not see out a game? Now, I'll put myself on screen for this as well. This is a Premier League table, as you can see, and this is the accurate positions of each team. Now, if we look at Aston Villa, there is a couple of things that I want to point out, and this is about XG. Now, I know the game isn't won on XG, the game isn't won on possession, the game is won on what you actually do, but XG is a fantastic metric of which to view a team because, well, not a team, but especially in this situation, right? Because if you look here, Liverpool have scored about 3.5 more goals than they should have. Arsenal are pretty much bang on with the amount of goals that they have scored. Nottingham Forest and Man City actually slightly outperforming. Bournemouth, slight outliers there. Chelsea, about 5 more. Newcastle, 7 more, that's fine. Fulham, 4 more. Brighton, bang on. A lot of teams bang on. The teams in the lower half really should be taking their chances a bit more. But Aston Villa, we should have scored about 10 goals more than we actually have, and we should have conceded about a goal and a half less. So a goal, we'll round up, right? Because it's 1.66. You know, we should have conceded 2 less goals and scored 10 more goals than we have. Our goal difference currently sits at -3. By that, our goal difference would be about 9. That is a big worry. And if we go down, you'll see that there's no surprise to anyone that in the top 10 in terms of the goal scorers this season in the league, there is Ollie Watkins on a plus 3.59 for XG. So he should have about 4 more goals than he does. So you look at everyone else on that top scorers list, right? Haaland, little bit of an outlier, but pretty much bang on. Mateta, pretty much bang on. Mo Salah outperforming. Chris Wood outperforming. Isaac, Mbuemo, Cole Palmer, Cunha, Cliver. They're all outperforming their XG, apart from Ollie Watkins. So what is the actual problem? I think it's just a multitude of things. You can't blame fixture congestion. These are players on upwards of 6-figure salaries a week. These are professional footballers. They are playing for Aston Villa, one of the biggest clubs in England. Hate me down below all you want for saying that. I think we're just off. And we haven't ever been on this season. And I think we might slightly be suffering the consequences of overachievement last season. We were never a team or a squad that should have finished 4th last season. That's why it was so amazing when we done it. Now, are we also putting our eggs in the wrong basket? Because in the Champions League, I think overall we were really, really good. Right, we finished in the top 8. The FA Cup, we're doing well. But the Premier League, the inconsistency, the terrible performances. It's not just terrible results, it's terrible performances. The inconsistent back four. We're one of the leakiest and worst defences in the Premier League. We're one of the most inconsistent attacks in the Premier League. Our main striker, 4 goals less than his expected goals. The man that was our finisher, that was dragging us out of issues further on earlier in the season, John Duran, has been sold. Now we're relying on the likes of Malen and Rashford to hit the ground running and score goals. Even in that Ipswich game, yes, Ollie Watkins got the goal. Fantastic. He also missed 2 or 3 clear-cut chances. He's not a finisher. We had, 24 shots in that Ipswich game against 10 men. We scored 1. Mix that inconsistent and terrible attack, really, in terms of XG. We've seen that. We should have scored 10 more goals than we have this season. A shabby, constant, ever-changing defence, and the fact that we seem to be putting a lot of focus on the Champions League, we're struggling. But as I put the Premier League table up on the screen to finish this video out, you'll see that we have got work to do. To get into the Europa League, we are now 6 points off of Chelsea. Yes, they're on a little bit of a dodgy run, but Bournemouth also doing well. We only have 13 games left in the Premier League. We have Brighton and Brentford breathing down our necks. We have some really, really tricky fixtures coming up very, very soon. And you just worry, right? Because 7th place at the moment is occupied by a very, very good Newcastle team. 6th occupied by a very good Chelsea team. 4th occupied by a very, very, very good Man City team. Bournemouth team are 5th. Man City 4th. I don't even think top 4 is an option for Villa this season. It's just going to be trying to scrape into those European spots. But we've got to go above the likes of Fulham, Newcastle and Chelsea to do it. And if we continue playing how we have, it could be a Europeless season for Villa next season. That could spell disaster, mass player sales and a weaker squad going in for another push. I don't know how we're going to do it. It's worrying, but I guess I'll see you guys for a live stream of the Liverpool game on Wednesday.